Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. My name is Jackson Mummy, and each week we'll be bringing you updated information about the bar exam and what you need to do in order to make the next bar exam your last bar exam. Ready to get started? Let's jump to it. Hey, everybody, welcome. Today is February 1st. Are you kidding me? I think that means we've got 21 days until the bar exam. Oh my gosh, that's just crazy stuff. But we are glad that you're here. And we've got our full panel today. We got the gang all here. June, welcome. Glad to see you. We've got Brianna here, and we've got Amanda here, and we've got Judge Dawson here. And so we got a bunch of stuff to get over. And if you're with us live, great. If you are watching on replay, we're glad to have you there. And if you're listening or watching the podcast again, glad to have you with us. Let me just start by saying 20 days out, what does that feel like? I'll jump to you, Amanda. You're probably the most recent person to go through this. What does 21 days feel like before the bar exam?
It feels really real. Now is the time. And still, I think we have that approach of it's inevitable now. There's no turning back. If you're a February taker, it seems to be fast approaching inevitable. But I do remember being here February 1st and not quite into review and nervous I hadn't taken my first practice exam. So I would say I had so much learning in like the next 14 days, which on the other side now, it's easy to say this is actually quite the exciting time because a lot of ground can be made in these next. I say 14 days because I always say people can maybe wind down a little at the end, right? But these next 14 days are a lot of ground can be made.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is when we see big gains and big improvement. Brianna, what's it feel like on this side of the table now with 20 days to go?
Good question. I'm starting to see a lot of the students dive into, they're done with that review section or they're just not getting into that review section. I'm seeing some students already starting to take some practice exams. I'm hearing a little fatigue in their voice. I'm hearing a little apprehension. I hear a couple of people who get really thrilled with what they're doing and practicing that intuition. So it's all over the board, but I can say the one thing that I'm hearing a lot is that it's the ever looming exam that is coming closer and closer, and you can hear it in everybody's voices.
Yeah.
But fighting times.
Yeah, fun times. So anyway, so we're going to dig into a lot of student questions today. June, let me start with you, just kick off a little bit. Let me just ask this question. I know there are people that haven't been on group coaching calls yet. Is it too late for them to join those calls?
No, and they're free to anybody that is registered a registered student. And you really can't emphasize this enough. Need to be on at least one group coaching call. You can join one, you can join them all. You do not have to pre-register. You just hop on at the time of the call and you're magically in the call. But I think it's super important to not self-isolate right now. And it's really hard on your friends and family because they don't get it. And you're not going to get probably the empathy and support you need right now, but you will from your peers and you will from our all of us have been through the bar exam a couple of times now, and they're very good. And just from what I hear from students, hearing other students and what they're going through and knowing you're not alone is helpful. Okay. Just hearing it, we learn how other people through osmosis and to feel like we're not the only ones that are struggling can be very helpful. So I recommend getting on a group coaching call. And it's funny, everybody will tell me, oh, Jen, I didn't expect to talk tonight. And then they'll start talking and it just all comes out. And it's a really safe place. None of the coaching calls are recorded. It is a safe place for you to come and talk and know that you're in good company because all the other students are probably going through very close to the same struggle you are. That we give a lot of tools and tips on how to keep your head together, how to study. Brianna, Tracy, and Amanda are all attorneys. Tracy's a judge. And so the experience there is just huge as far as actually what you go through sitting through the bar and being successful. My calls were set on mindset and just making sure that your anxiety isn't. And Bobka is also a licensed attorney in Georgia. So again, come to all the calls, come to one, come to two. But very important that you do join, even if you haven't joined. And
Yeah.
everybody's scared. It's easy. It's so much fun. And we laugh a lot. We have some fun. We jump. And it's really nice just to, I think, break away from your studies for just a little bit and know that you're with friends that are going through what you're going through. All right.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Couple of just brief announcements before we get to questions. I want to remind everybody that we have scheduled our next live boot camp. It is here in Denver, Colorado, and we will be doing that May 19th and 20th, I believe are the dates. You can register now with just a $250 deposit. This is an opportunity to learn how to photo read and then to mind map and to apply all of those skills for essay writing, performance tests, MBEs. Tracy's going to be with us as well. And so we're really looking forward to that. June will be here to do her mindset coaching. I will be training in photo reading. I am a certified photo reading instructor, and I've been doing this for a long time. These are fabulous opportunities, and we limit this one to only 15 students. It's first come, first serve, and you should hop on there, and the deposit is fully refundable if for some reason you can't end up going. So this is a chance to reserve your seat, and the fee will include everything except your travel and lodging. So there you go. And we hope that you will join us for boot camp. It should be fun. Two other things I want to just talk about at this stage of the preparation. We've got 21 days to go today as we're talking. One question I get a lot of, is it too late or is there a value to doing the personal writing workshop? Brianna, we've got you doing those writing workshops right now, and so I'm going to bring you in here in a minute, but I want to just emphasize that I think this is actually a great time to do the writing workshop because it's an opportunity to get eyes on your writing from a mechanical organizational standpoint. And this is when I think you can do this sort of correction. If you've gotten into bad habits or something's not quite working, you can fix it. Brianna, you want to talk a little bit about the writing workshop and how it goes?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do choose to schedule a personal writing workshop with me, it consists of 2 calls. Both calls are going to be 30 minutes. During the first call, we will talk about any specific questions you have with regards to your essay writing. We'll talk a little bit about the mechanics of essay writing, and then I will assign you an actual essay to write for me. And then you will submit that essay to me. And then on the following call, we will dissect it and really hone in on some of the key mistakes you might be making. You might be surprised. I'll probably see something that you didn't even know you were doing wrong. But it's a great way for you to catch some of those bonus points, especially with regards to the essays, make sure your organization is going well, and make sure that you're really sticking to that FLA format. I think it's a very valuable tool, especially right now when you're trying to pick up those bonus points going into that bar exam in February. So it's a great time to be scheduling those calls.
Yeah, and it's very affordable. I really would recommend if you'll get value out of it with 3 weeks to go. Now, I also want to point out for those of you taking the exam in July of 2023, you have some coaching options open to you besides just working with me. You can work with Brianna, you can work with Amanda. Both of them are taking UBE students. Amanda's on the East Coast, Brianna's in the middle of the country, but that they're both incredibly capable, obviously, and you get to do that work. And then Tracy is picking up California students for July of 2023. And so you've got a bunch of options there. So if you're sick of hearing my voice, this is your opportunity to work with these 3 very talented coaches and get a couple of extra calls actually in terms of working with me. So those links are there. I want to encourage you to do that. Amanda, it's not too early for somebody to start coaching up for July, is it?
I don't think so. And in fact, I think it's great to start early because you're building great habits instead of going in there and, oh, I'm going to try a few things my way, which may or may not work out for you. And then you might realize halfway down, oof, I've been practicing this not to the best of my ability. And you actually can get a little more out of your practice if you start coaching earlier. And that's what happened to me. I recognized right away that I was not going to get through this on my own. And I was like, I don't have the capacity to struggle through this, right? I need someone to guide me. So I took one practice essay and then I was signed up for coaching, which is why I'm back doing it because it helped me.
Yeah. And I'll just tell you that Amanda, Brianna, and Tracy are all very talented. They can teach you what you need to do to improve your written work. I do supervise and watch that work and the conferences, we record them. So I'm very much involved, but I just it gives us a chance. And as we've expanded, it's really become a necessity to have these talented coaches with us. So I'm very appreciative of that. So the last thing I want to just say in terms of what people could be thinking about right now at the end in terms of coaching is June's Calming the Chaos. This is a 4-session individual work with June on mindset. Incredibly valuable. I know Amanda went through it when she was a student. And June, you want to say anything about that course?
I actually got this question a couple days ago asking, was it too late to sign up for February if you are sitting for the bar? No, it is the perfect time. It's 4 30-minute calls. I've cleared my schedule. I can get you in before the exam and 4 calls. Oh, June, what's that gonna do? We can work magic. We can really turn it around for you to feel confident and walk in there feeling at peace and confident and successful and being successful on this bar exam. Amanda went through coaching with me. Amanda, you want to say anything about what it was like to work and do the coaching with me?
Yeah, I guess I do have something to say on that point for people who think it's too late. And I don't even know if you know this, June, but I know I didn't use all my calls. And so you don't need them all. You just need a few. And it wasn't that June didn't have time. It was simply that I was like, the few calls we had, you got me in the right mindset and you gave me a few things to do and I was all set. So it was well worth it, even though I didn't use them all. So even if you think you might be someone that might just benefit from a few one-on-ones like you could be, and that's exactly what happened to me. So if I could sign up now, right, and I thought that mindset was something that was going to get in my way, then I would definitely do it. And there is still time to get in the right mindset. In fact, I think now more than ever, students might be feeling I was in the right mindset and maybe something has come up. Maybe there is a family emergency and you're feeling guilt for going forward to take the bar exam, or you have many competing important things going on. Whatever's coming up for you, this is a good time to let your mind work for you instead of against you. So, yeah.
And one thing we do, because like Amanda, like she said, she didn't use all 4. She got in a really great place, but she also was open to the process, which was really helpful. And so what I also do for students is if you're feeling really good, we keep one of the calls, we call it the emergency call. And the night, evening, not at midnight, before the exam, if you need to talk to somebody, I'm here. I'm here. Okay. If afterwards you want to just decompress a bit and you have a call, I'm here. And so there's ways to work and use those. And like Amanda said, if you don't use them all, you pass, you don't care. You're going on with your thing in your life. You're good. But whatever you need, we're here to work with you. And it is for a cause, super easy to do. And I think it's really beneficial to just be able to talk to somebody where you're at. And the reason why we do this versus the group coaching is it's hard to go deep. It's hard to sometimes the information can be a little sensitive. And so on a one-to-one, we can go a little bit deeper than where we go in group coaching. So yeah, if you're feeling like on the fence or really anxious or nervous, I encourage you to sign up. I'm here and we'll get you.
Yeah, they're great. It's a great tool. And I don't think there's any other bar review in America that offers anything like that. Great. Thank you, Jude. Appreciate that and hope that people will take advantage of that. Final thing that I want to just say is this is the time, starting February 1st, when people start asking me about predictions. And as I said, I do a preview video for every jurisdiction. I will be doing those, recording those over the next week or so. I'll post them up in the course. These previews really are also a look back at the last exam, what was tested, give you my sense of what I think is the trend lines for topics and things that are going on in the exam. So be watching for that. They will be coming. I'm starting to record those now, and then we'll get them out and to you. A lot of things going on. I wanted to talk about, and all the coaches get the questions that come in. And so coaches, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to group a couple of these together. We got a lot of questions this week about BarMaps and mind mapping and that product and how does it work and is it valuable? I want to start with an overview. First of all, let me just explain what BarMaps is and then how I think it gets used, and then I'll flip it over to you guys. BarMaps is really made up of 3 different products together. The first is that we have created mind maps for every topic on your bar exam, multi-state and your state exam, and sub mind maps in some cases as well. These mind maps you can print out, you can modify them using a piece of software called mindmeister.com. You can use them and draw your own, but it's a time saver, and it's a huge time saver. So that's one component. Second component is that we took all the video lectures and we broke them out so that you could find specific information and topics within the video lectures. So again, huge time saver because you don't have enough time to go back and listen to 8 hours of property, although I am regaling and fascinating, no doubt. But 8 hours of property, again, you don't want to do that. So you want to find the specific piece and jump to it, and you can do that with BarMaps. And then the third thing is that if you think it would be helpful to listen to that lecture again, and it probably would, we have what we call a fast finish audio, which is the audio soundtrack with just we've taken out the gaps, the air gaps. And so it runs very fast, and you play that at night while you're sleeping, for example, or while you're driving the car or doing work around the house, whatever it might be, at the gym. And it's a chance for additional review. Now, having said all of that, the purpose of BarMaps is right now to be used. This is the time to use BarMaps. This is when you can begin to put some oomph into your study by getting that additional boost of the materials, knowing how to dive in a little deeper, being able to review them faster. So I encourage BarMaps at this particular point in time. Now, we got some questions about, can you pay for it in installments? No, it's priced pretty affordably, and it includes your multi-state and your state. So all you got to do is jump into the upgrade of the course. Jude can probably put the link up here as well. I think this is a good time to use BarMaps. But let me throw it out to the panel. We're just going to call you the panel today. What's the value of mind mapping and note-taking and having these pre-made mind maps? Anybody want to offer some thoughts on that?
I can start talking initially about mind mapping, and then I'll let Amanda discuss maybe more the bar. It wasn't really a product available when I went through, but
Yeah.
mind mapping itself is enormously beneficial because it provides you a visual representation of the material. I think that's one of the great things about the program is that it offers you the ability to visually or to read and to hear and now to see a visual representation of it. Mind mapping for me, I'm not an artistic person at all. So do not think that you need to be an artist to create this beautiful mind map. I did mine on MindMeister and I would read them aloud to myself. Sometimes I recorded them and would listen to them throughout the day. But it was a great review tool for me to go in and heavy topics and correlate each piece in each area within the broader topic of law. So I thought mind mapping was an incredible tool and I definitely utilized it. So I really encourage you to play with it and it's not a one size fits all. So just because I did it one way doesn't mean you're going to do it the same way. Just have fun with it, play with it and see if it's one of the tools in the enormous toolbox we've got that feels good for you.
Yeah. Thanks. Amanda, you have any thoughts about BarMaps?
I think, again, like it is a great way to synthesize what you're learning and work with the material. So I've said time and again that in law school, you're taught to outline and do these notes, right? And then everyone's upset because they didn't do as well in law school as they thought or their first year exams because they're like, I did the secret code, I did the outlining, and somehow it was supposed to get in your brain like through osmosis. And also, we're only taught to outline in one way, right? Vertically, which doesn't always correspond to how people think and organize the material in their mind. So BarMaps and mind maps are a great way for you to work with the material in a different way and kind of mold them to how it makes sense in your own mind. So I always say outlining and note taking, could I be so bold to say, is it's pointless if you don't work with the material. Maybe there are educators out there that would criticize me for that, but there's value to writing, right? There's definitely value to getting into writing down the notes, but I think it's definitely superior to be working with the material, even if you have the BarMaps, right? Kind of the pre-made versions of that all in one spot, and then you're still adding to it or working with it in a different way. So that's my 5 cents. Maybe I'm a little bit too opinionated, but
No,
I love it.
I think you're spot on. We got a question from a photo reader who said, I purchased BarMaps. What's the best way to incorporate it into my study? I did a short video in the community network about some thoughts about how to incorporate it. But essentially, what I think happens is that, piggyback on what Brianna and Amanda both said, particularly when you're doing mind mapping. As a photo reader, you're really activating your photo reading through the bar maps, through the mind mapping. And then you're activating it again with a fast finish. And so I think it is a very valuable tool to supplement your photo reading. So if you're a photo reader, I would highly encourage you to do bar maps. If you're not a photo reader, it's still got incredible value because of the time saving nature of it. It's not too late to order it. In fact, this is when we get most of the orders for bar maps. So I think it's a super valuable tool and would encourage all of you to check it out and add it to your portfolio. The other tool that comes up a lot right now is the video nutshells. The video nutshells are something, these are creations of mine from 3 a.m. These bar maps, video nutshells, other things. Video nutshells was really, we have in the course, everyone's got access to this. We've got the MBE nutshells. And they're written summaries of the key points of law. And Brianna's smiling because I know she like drilled and drilled on those when she was going through the course. But one of the things that I wanted to do was to take that and say, could we put that in a 25-minute video per subject and just compress the entire subject into 25 minutes? Because I know people get antsy at the end and they want a quick review. So we did that. Weird in the sense that we use an AI voice because the AI voice could go faster than I could. And we compressed it. So you're literally seeing the nutshells on the screen while you're hearing them read to you. And each of the 7 MBE topics we do in 20 or 25 minutes. This is a super tool at the end for review. And I think the more review you get, the more non-conscious review, the better off you are. To me, that just makes sense. Any thoughts about using that particular kind of a tool at this stage to just hear the subject being run fast through your brain?
Yeah,
Amanda?
I think
Yeah.
so. I use them,
Yeah.
and I think I use them more as emotional support than anything, but like maybe I didn't actually need it, but whatever calms your anxiety, but I do think it did help. One of the things I would do is talk back to the recording in my head a little bit quickly. So I'm just again working with the material in a different way. It's getting into like my auditory space and I'm having a little mini conversation or maybe even predicting what you're going to say a bit in my own words. So that was useful to me, but I also did find it emotionally supporting. Oh, I'm doing something, right? I have some other way I'm working with it because I maybe was exhausted and we have a lot of questions coming in about how else should I work with it or I'm done staring at my mind maps. We're getting a lot of those kind of questions now at this time. This is another small, easy tool that you can do that with.
Yeah, and it's not very expensive. So I would encourage you to add that to the course. This is the time when I think most people would be using a tool like that.
And Jackson,
Well,
we had another question come
yeah,
in the chat
sure,
that June wanted me
sure.
to read because I think it's about this. So I think it might be a good
Okay.
time for me to read it. So this student said, I watched Jackson's 21-day video yesterday. Yay for those videos, right? And bookmarked it for daily watching as a good reminder of how to approach the exam by imagining the possibilities. I'm wondering if you can provide a little clarification, though, on focusing on weak areas rather than trying to amass volumes of information. So the student said, I'm currently following the syllabus, doing the MBE practice problems, specifically the 1991 exam, yay. And it seems to me that across the board, I need more practice to grasp the nuances of each of the doctrines. Does it make sense to continue down the path rather than honing in on specific doctrine in which I tend to get more questions wrong? I feel like I could use more practice in all areas, essays, PTs, I think they mean MPTs as well as MBEs, and I had planned to continue to follow the syllabus. Does that make sense? And the reason I want to read that now is because we're talking about, right,
Yeah.
what we should be doing right now and going forward and these like some extra things.
Why don't you go ahead and give your response to that and I'll swing it around the horn and I'll pick up from
Yeah,
there.
because maybe other people would have some
Good
different
question.
pieces,
Great
piece of
question.
advice. So I guess I would caution. So I think there's a difference between reviewing and honing in on questions that you continue to get wrong in specific areas, right? Versus going down rabbit holes of, oh, I really need to understand this and I don't understand it well enough. So I think it makes good sense that when you get questions wrong and even when you get them right, to go back, add to your mind maps, listen to the lecture on 2 times the speed, figure out, is there something that I genuinely am misunderstanding about this particular area of law? Because I think the student is saying that there is still weak areas. At the same time, I do think you have to continue down with the syllabus because it has the practice built in, right? Like the syllabus says practice the MBEs, essays, PTs. So the student's feeling I need practice in all the areas. And I would also validate that's natural right now, right? Like you still have to take a few more practice tests. It would be natural to feel like you need more practice, like you're not ready to take the bar exam just yet, right? You're almost there, so you would need more practice. So I guess I would caution against really feeling like I have a weak area and diving too deep versus doing the review, figuring out where you got it wrong and integrating that knowledge and moving on.
Yeah, I think that's a good response. Brianna, what's your take on that?
I love everything that Amanda just said. I also would caution you, don't go back at this time and listen to full length lectures. Unless you have something like BarMaps that you can go in and really identify the specific area, I really encourage everyone to not move backwards. Now, I like what she's saying about if it's one area, one specific question, one essay question, there's a nuance you're not understanding. I encourage you to go into maybe the PDFs outline and do a control find and search for that specific area and only deep dive in that specific paragraph. And if it doesn't help you really comprehend the weakness you feel like you had with the question, then I think you need to move on.
Let me add one thing about the control find because it's such a great tool. You can go to the trainer books, the PDFs or the digital copies of the trainer books, which are the question books. And let's say you're having trouble with a hearsay exception, whatever it might be. Put in that term in the question books, and what it's going to give you are the questions that reflect that particular problem. We had a great suggestion. I think it was Modesto said, could you add some questions to BarMaps? And I love that idea. I think it's something we should look at doing, but it's time consuming for us to do it. In the interim, these 20 days, I think it's just incredibly effective to do Control F in a digital copy, look at the questions after you've gone into that deep dive and say, here are 10 questions that respond to that particular problem. And after you've done 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And by the way, that's the algorithm. If you were wondering what some other companies do, that's the algorithm. Then you get that experience and you can move on.
That's a great idea. I was just thinking about diving into the outline, but I love the idea of also getting yourself a couple of those questions that are dealing spot on with that issue. So you use that and abuse it if you feel like you need to pick up on weaknesses in specific areas. But Amanda said, move forward, continue to move forward in the program and through the syllabus.
Yeah, I think I would just echo what both Brianna and Amanda said about moving forward and not going down the rabbit hole. It is easy to get hung up on a specific problem, and it just doesn't matter that much. No one specific topic is going to be big enough or have enough impact. And I know that we don't want to let points get past us, but sometimes you can get so obsessed over something that you just lose all the other things you've got to do. And so it's important to keep your pace and keep moving. I would also say going to the group coaching calls is a really good way to check from an accountability standpoint. Am I moving too slowly? Do I need to pick up the pace? And if you're in coaching with me or one of our other coaches in our individual coaching calls, we're going to talk about pacing and make sure you stay on target.
I would also say, Jackson, one thing to piggyback off of how you said, if the student is talking about a weak area, like that it's rule of perpetuities or certain types of crimes, like just forget about it because it's not worth any more points on the bar exam than anything else. It's not like you're going to have your weak area probably isn't going to show up 6 times on the bar because they're testing a lot of areas, right? So sometimes we also just have to at some point let go and say, I'm not going to understand everything. And no one is. Then guess what? That's not where the bar is set, right? Because it might be a waste of time. You might be able to pick up other points. Like not everyone's going to get everything and you don't have to pass the exam or even to do really well on the exam. So just remember that if you start to want to go beyond Brianna's really good suggestion about just Control F, just stay in this place. Don't go back or only go back to that lecture section if you know where it is or use the 2 times the speed mini ones. So yeah, I would just say that. Forget about if you don't get it at some point. Has anyone ever watched Bring It On and they're still practicing right before and she yells at the window, if you don't have it by now, you don't have it by now. There might be some things that aren't going to click as well. And it really is okay.
Yeah. And I can tell you after 30 years, I still don't understand the rule against perpetuities. So there you go. Thank you. That's a wonderful question. We had a student that asked a question. They said, I want to have a view of the structure of an entire subject, and I'm trying to do a mind map. How can I find the table of contents? This is actually a very easy question. In your course, in I think assignment 1.2 or lesson 1.2, there's a digital library. Every one of the books for your course is in digital format. That's where you'll find the table of contents. You will not find a table of contents in the PDFs for each individual subject. So you got to go to the digital book. But part of the reason for that was just what we were talking about. It's the Control F, or whatever it is in Windows. It's the find feature because it's so valuable. So I know some of you have printed books. Everybody's got the digital copies, and you've also got the PDF. So you got a lot of different ways to work through that. And again, BarMaps has already built that for you if you wanted it that way. All right. Next question that we got was a good one. Student said, I'm working through the essays, but when I get to conflict pairs, I slow down. I feel like if I rush, I'm going to lose my organization and end up all over the place. And so I'm working on that. Any suggestions? Let's talk about that a little bit. When do we use conflict pairs? And I'll give you my thoughts and then I'll turn it over to the panel. I think conflict pairs are training wheels. You use them when you are stuck and you just can't figure out what the problem is. And one way to think about any bar essay is that it's really a series of legal problems. And so you're really just trying to figure out each legal problem in turn and what that means and what you want to do with it. And to do that, conflict pairs sometimes help because you can identify what particular arguments and concerns are and then start to draft from there. But I would organize my answer according to the call of the question and then drop my conflict pairs in wherever I'm not sure what the argument is. If I know what the argument is, I don't think I need a conflict pair. I think you just jump right in and write it that way. That's my take on it. Brianna, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'll try to keep this response mildly short. We talked about this on my coaching call last night.
Oh, okay.
15 minutes.
Okay.
Just trying to help students with these questions. Like you were saying, that you're just not 100% sure where to go with it. You're trying to dissect it, but you're not really sure where to start. Trying to identify that conflict pair is a great way to begin. And generally, I think that when you're reading the question, you're like, okay, who's going to be affected by this? Who's my primary party? And do they want it or do they not want it? And identifying that person is usually a great place to start. And you're like, okay, now that I've identified the person, then I've identified what they want or what they don't want, what's the flip side of it? Who, and then what would that, or who would that affect? So if it happened, who's going to be happy? Who's going to be sad? And ultimately, you're trying to find the core problem that they're asking about. And if you can't find two parties, you haven't identified the core issue yet. So I think that once you've identified your parties and you've been able to lay that out and you see that conflict pair, I've found that it also leads you to, oh, okay, this fact is going to help. That fact is going to help. And it leads you into your analysis. So I think that if you're having a problem identifying exactly the issue that they're asking or that conflict that they're asking about, I think identifying your two parties is a really great way to begin. And then so I always say party A wants this. Why do they want it? What's the law that'll support it? Party B doesn't want it. Why don't they want it? And what's the law that supports it? So that's the ultimate breakdown of that middle paragraph. So I think that's where you can start if you're having problems and you need to work on identifying that conflict pair.
Great. Yeah. I like that. Thank you. Another question that we got, the student said, I'm running short on time. Yeah, we all are. Should I skip the 3 OPE tests? And by the way, OPE stands for Online Practice Exam. Don't ask me. It's just the name that the examiners gave it. Should I skip the 3 OPE tests and do the second set of MBE practice questions for each topic? No, just the opposite. You should not do the second set of MBE questions. You should do the OPEs because they're mixed topic practice and they're more valuable. How many questions are those? There's 2 of them that are 100 questions. One's 200 questions. All of that, by the way, is detailed in my day 24 email. So if you're in the February exam, you got a day 24 email about the MBE, read it again, print it out. It's a beast, but it's really got all the detail in it. The student said, should I take those OPEs under time conditions? Absolutely. When we get to the full length mixed practice, you should be doing that work under time condition. I don't think it's any value to you to spread it out. In addition, we want you answering a question in 90 seconds using selective intuition. So you should be finishing in about 2.5 hours or less every 100 questions. I think that's, again, I just encourage people to get into that email about all of the multi-state scores and then let us know your scores. And we're able to see them if you take them online. But if you're not online, we don't get to see it. So we'd like to know. We track that. I'm enough of a data freak that I like to just see what's happening. Okay. One other quick question before we turn to Tracy. She's going to talk about something called Allen wrenches and wing nuts. I have no idea. But a California student said, does the federal civil procedure and jurisdiction topic apply to us? Yes, absolutely it does. If it's in your course, if it's in your syllabus, do it. I will talk about that in the preview video in California because the topic of California civil procedure gets tested as federal civil procedure for whatever crazy reason. So there you go. I think those are most of the questions that we had. I wanted to give some time.
Jackson. So a student wants to know, what is the best approach to answering MBE questions such as real property that have long fact pattern?
It's a great question. So here's what you do with a long fact pattern. First, you start by reading the actual question stem because that gives you a focus before you get into the long fact pattern. Then you read the fact pattern and you come back to the question stem. And then, and this is the key, preview your answer before you look at the 4 answer choices. Because when you look at the 4 answer choices, you're going to get confused and distracted. So before you ever get there, so you've started with the stem, you've gone back to the fact pattern, now you end up at the stem, now you preview what you think your answer should be and why, and then you look for the answer choice that most closely matches that. And if you want to see actual practical examples of that, look at in your course the section where you do the 10 hardest MBE questions ever. And the question stem is just literally the question. In a case in an action brought by plaintiff against defendant, plaintiff will prevail because, or will plaintiff prevail, or whatever it is. It's just the question before you get to the 4 answer choices. So that's my approach to long questions. But selective intuition, go back to that video. I don't remember what the video number is, but it's early on in the course in the MBE module there, and it says optional, but it's really not. You got to watch that selective intuition video. Thoughts, Brianna, Amanda, about that before we jump over to Tracy?
I found it incredibly helpful to do diagramming with real property questions as well. So you were dealing with an easement, doing like a quick line and like an A on one side and B on the other. That diagramming I'm talking about. I'm not talking no big pictures, but I thought that diagramming was extremely helpful for me to keep all of the facts straight and together because they can be extremely daunting going into. And sometimes just having a game plan of what you're going to draw there for each question makes it a little more fun instead of just filling in fact pattern and question and just picking an answer.
I think that's all great advice. I would also say that if long questions freak you out or cause your heart rate to go up or whatever, skip them and save them for the end. Like, again, you get no more points, just to remind people, for answering a long question correctly as a short question correctly, and just do it on your second pass when you feel like you have more time. I really tried to stick to the average of 90 seconds and remembering that I don't have a better chance of getting this right the longer I sit there and draw this thing out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Just to add a quick note on that, if you get through that long fact pattern and you're not sure, instead of having to go back through and you're tight on time, pick an answer and move on.
Yeah. The practical experience of this is just answer and move on. It's worth 1 point. That's all. All right. Great. Thank you all very much. Judge Dawson is back with us. And you're going to have to explain the title of this conversation. I think I know. Is this having something to do with building chairs? Is that what we're talking about today, Tracy?
That's exactly it. A couple of weeks ago, I got some new kitchen chairs sent to me through Amazon, I think it was. And of course, they came in a box, and I was immediately freaking out because I knew there was going to be tools involved and I was going to have to try to put this thing together. So I went and got my huge tool box after I opened the box and saw, yes, in fact, everything was in pieces. And I opened up that toolbox and there's all this stuff in there and it was disorganized. And I knew that all of these things were for something, but I wasn't sure how or what to use or how to put these chairs together. So my next thought was to call my brother, who is Jackson, and say, will you please come put these chairs together for me? And he's trying to be a really good brother. So he said, sure. But he was really hoping in the meantime, I would figure it out. So attached to each of the chairs were these little bags. And I thought, this could be relevant, these little bags. And so I opened them up, and sure enough, there was an Allen wrench. There were some whatchamacallits, and there were some screws. And I thought, well, I bet if I focus on these little items, I will be able to put these chairs together. So this is by way of summarizing everything that your brilliant coaches have brought to you today. It's 21 days before the exam. You don't have time now to go through the entire toolbox and figure out what each of these tools is for and organize them so nicely and neatly. What you have time to do is find your Allen wrenches, your screws, and your thingamajigs, the rule against perpetuities that maybe you don't understand, but you know that it fits in real property questions. Okay. So here's what I think you should do. I think your BarMaps, if you don't have them, you need to get them. And you need to look at those and you need to study those. Those are like I think these are the screws because these are the things that hold everything together. Your BarMaps, your PhotoReading, you still have time to take those classes and to get those materials. But that is the basic screw that's going to hold these kitchen chairs together. Your coaching, your video nutshells for the MBE, the fact that you're on this hour instead of studying is a helpful hour. Being with one of us individually is very valuable. And those video nutshells, what I would do with those is put them by my head when I'm going to bed for 25 minutes and just let it play. Even if you fall asleep, your brain is taking it in. In the morning when you're getting ready for work or you're getting ready to take your shower, put them on. And while you're brushing your teeth and you're doing things, just play them. Just play them. Just play them. Just get them in. The third thing I think is probably the Allen wrench, and that's to practice. This is the time to practice. Practice taking the MBE questions, practice your writing skills, take a lot of these questions, practice summarizing quickly the facts that matter. Not everything in the toolbox, the things that matter. Practice that. As Brianna was saying, do little maps, figure out who's A, who's B, who's the conflict. Really calm that down so that you're not spending minutes and minutes writing facts that don't matter, writing law that, doesn't matter. Instead, you're practicing how to show the bar examiners that you know it. And then the fourth thing is putting it all together, which I call getting your head right. Getting your head right. Get in with June. Calm the chaos. Get in with your personal coaches. Ask them questions. Send questions to Jackson. He's very patient and he will answer them for you. I'll answer them. Brianna will answer them. Amanda will answer them. June will answer them. All your coaches. But now it's the time to put it all together and realize what you need out of that toolbox and what you need to set aside at this point. And I'm sitting on one of my kitchen chairs.
That's awesome. And thank God I didn't have to build them. I think this is a great analogy, Tracy, how people get overwhelmed, right? And it just becomes too much. And then they shut down and they think I can't do anything. And that's just not the case. As we wrap up today, that 21 days is a very long time still. And I know that everybody that's been through this process before has that awareness. But at this moment, it feels like, oh my gosh, the test is today. It is not. And in 21 days, you will be so tired of getting my emails, of seeing my videos, of hearing all these things each day by day. And so you just want to be methodical about the work you're doing. And here's the key. I'm pretty sure, Tracy, you followed the directions, didn't you? You actually looked at that thing. You did what, most men won't do, which is, directions? I don't need directions. But you probably looked at them because I know you well enough to know you would. if people will just follow the directions, they'll be okay. I'm always amused about, I send out that day 24 email about the MBE. I've done it for years and years. It's revised every year, but I've done it for years. And then people ask me questions that are answered in that email, right? Just read the email. Just follow the directions and life will go better for you. You've
It's
got a
all
lot
right
of time.
here.
It's
All
all
right
right in the
here.
bag.
Bang.
That's it. Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think that's great advice and a great way to think about it. We'll just go around the horn here. Final comments for this week coming up. What should this week look like for people as we go forward? Jude, let me start with you. What do you think this week should be like?
Make your bed. Okay. Every morning for the next 21 days, I want you to make your bed because right now it can feel like everything's out of control. So again, like Tracy said, we think the problem is bigger than it actually is if we just really look at it step by step. And that causes anxiety. So why make my bed? It's something you can control. And it actually will help you feel better starting your day that you have accomplished something. So even though it's very minimal, it'll set your day on the right foot, so to speak. So make your bed for the next 21 days and you got this.
Cool. Tracy, what's your thought the next week coming up?
Yeah, I'd say concentrate on your writing in two ways. Concentrate on your headlines, make your headlines matter. Your headlines will be your GPS all the way through the question. And if you write your headlines first and you get used to that, then you will make sure that your answer agrees all the way the line. And then work on synthesizing the facts. The essays that I'm looking at, things that I'm seeing are way overblown in the facts, and then there's not enough time to talk about the law and the application. Don't assume that everyone knows the facts, but just work on that. So if you can get the headlines down, you can get the facts down, you're instantly going to slow down, you're going to breathe, you're going to be led right through your answer. So that's what I would suggest this week.
Great. Thank you. Amanda, what's your thoughts for the week coming up?
I'll give a little bit of a different thought that I gave my group coaching people because we've had a lot of study like tip pointers here. I want everyone to make a list of all the people who will be worse off if you pass the bar exam. So to relieve you from your guilt of putting everything aside or putting most things aside. And I bet you'll find that nobody is on that list, and then make a list of all the people who will be better off if you pass the bar exam. So it's not a selfish endeavor you are on. There are clients that need you. There are bar people that need you, right? We need you as a member of the bar. So I challenge everyone to make that list and realize that like it is okay to prioritize yourself in this moment, because prioritizing yourself is prioritizing everyone on that list of all the people who will be better off if you are a member of the bar.
Oh man, such wisdom. I'm glad you're a member of the bar, man. Brianna, that's a tough one to follow.
I know. I guess the one thing, I'll give you an analogy that really also describes what Amanda's talking about, and it's about filling your vase. It is, if you feel like you're on this selfish path right now and you're having to either ignore loved ones or not pay as much attention to loved ones or employers, just remember that now is the time to fill your vase. And if you fill your vase now and take care of yourself and make yourself a priority, eventually that vase is going to overfill. And once that vase does overfill and overflow, everybody will get to enjoy the water from the vase that you've been filling yourself with. So just remember that, and that's okay. It's okay to take those actions in your life. And then with regards for studying this week, just make sure you're doing the work. Right now is the time to be doing the work. If you feel like you haven't been putting in enough hours, put in one more. If you feel like one more minute, one more second, one more hour, if you can put in one more this week, it's going to put you that much further ahead than everybody else taking the exam that's going after the exact same goal and dream you're going after. Try to stay focused. And Jackson said, follow your instructions. He has given you the email that tells you exactly what you need to be doing right now. So don't do anything else. Don't go find another program to get more of anything else. Stay focused, follow your instructions, and do the work.
Yeah, thanks. The wisdom on this panel, I thank you all. This is so much fun. This is great to get this kind of insight and input, and I really appreciate it. I'm so glad, and it's great to see so many of you on the call today. I hope that it's been useful for you. For those of you watching on replay, hope you found it useful as well. We will be back next Wednesday, continuing our inexorable march towards the bar exam. Again, encourage you, use the right tools, take advantage of the tools if you're in our course. If you're not in our course, there's lots of resources that we offer that are available to you, even if you're not a registered Celebration Bar Review student. We really want to change the face of the bar. That is why we are doing the work we do. It's why these people do the work that they do. And I'm very grateful for all of you. With that, I think I'm going to sign off. We'll see you. I am going to sign off. We're going to see you next Wednesday. Have a great study week. As everyone said here today, this is the week. Put your foot down, really do the work. This is when you're going to see big improvements. And we will see you again next week. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care.